Guys, thank you so much for being here and welcome back to all of you. Dave's the only one to the Retail World Podcast. So everyone knows I did the solo last week and I talked about the process of the CMA project and how amazing it was. And everything had to do with the difference of how this setup came to be and how it rolled out was all of you guys. And so I really wanted to, because I think that most retailers and people listening love to hear the creative part of it. And since all of you have been on the podcast, I figure what better chance than to bring you guys all back and talk about the process a little bit. So the CMA project came to us kind of late in the season in October. And I reached out to all of you guys right away because I was like, I knew I wanted a team of people that I've worked with that I know are strong merchandisers. And thankfully, all of you were able to sign on. And especially thank you where Ron came out from Portugal and was here way longer than expected.
Yay.
Before we get into that, I'm going to start with Jessica and have everybody introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about what you do now. And then we'll get into what sections you did because everybody had their own sections.
Hi, my name is Jessica Young. I have been in retail since 1993. Started out working at the Gap in college and was one of those people that couldn't stand like just sitting around and asked if I could redo a jean roll, and the rest is kind of history, as they say. I met Michelle at Anthropologie. So at least 20 years ago. We always try to do the math, but at least 20 years ago. And I'm not trying to embarrass her, but she always, I think, blushes when I say this, but she honestly is not just a dear friend, but a mentor and the person that I really learned and got my head start as a different path in my career as a merchandiser, and getting to do a million projects with her over the years, from Los Angeles to Atlanta to Vegas. And it was a really full circle moment getting to come to work on the CMA project with everyone.
It really was like full circle. And I laugh because I often joke that I don't remember half the shit that I do. And it's like, you kept bringing up, oh, remember this on this job? I'm like, what? Like, I don't remember. I literally do not remember. But we did.
Blessing and a curse.
The biggest job we did, which was kind of like this one, was when Russ Berry passed away. Russ left his company to his wife, and his wife brought her brother in, and they hired us to redo all of the Russ Berry showrooms. And these showrooms, oddly enough, wasn't Russ Berry repped by CMA back then? Or they were just in the same building? Maybe they're in the same building.
I think it was just in the same building.
But the Russ Berry showrooms were probably about the same size and scale, like 44 feet. We redid. Crystal was Crystal with us on some of them? So Crystal, who worked with us on the Loyal West project, Jess and myself, and Jess came out of Atlanta. We rented a cargo van for the Atlanta part, and we went to all these flea markets and picked up all these really cool like props. And that I think about that now, and like that was such a predecessor to what we're doing now. Is I'd be able to get on the ground, go prop shopping, find the things, get it going. I mean, that was really the very beginning. It's crazy.
It was great. I love it.
Dave, since you're sitting next to me.
Well, I'm the world famous Dave Sherrier. Her hubs. For me, the retail space, I worked in retail when I was a kid, in a surf shop for a long time, but then I ventured off towards construction. So that's kind of how I fit into this whole thing. She dragged me in kicking and screaming, and here I am.
Dave's been doing build outs. There's a picture I have of him at the LA Mart sitting on one of those giant dumpsters that are outside in the loading dock. And he's sitting there eating a sandwich. And it was like, that was literally like the first time I dragged him downtown LA to work, and we were doing the elevator lobby displays then for the building. And I'm like, oh, we can have you come and do. And he would build out stuff. And that's one picture I have of him is like the glamorous lunch break at the LA Mart, him sitting on a dumpster eating a sandwich. Oh my God.
Glamorous life of wholesale showroom.
And now I drag Dave around. He worked 180 with me this season. He's worked most of my retailers with me, and he has been doing most of the gift show setups.
Yeah, I've worked with Michelle and with others in, let's see, sales producers now, Fine Lines, Transpac, CMA, Kina. Gosh, I'm trying to think who else.
Loyal West Project, yes.
Oh yeah, the Loyal West Project, the Art Floral Trading, from when they first went into temps, we went and built out them in the soft wall temps area, and
Now they're
trying
permanent.
to think where else we've been. Atlanta, LA,
I drag him everywhere.
Vegas. And then I was a videographer for her on her podcast when we went through a couple of the stores, did the walkthrough with Nathan and Co. and with Surgeon Jane in Minneapolis.
Oh yeah. So if you guys have seen the podcast, it's actually the Retail Horror Road Trips. We did 2 of them. Dave was actually the photographer and the video editor. So for those of you who have not seen it, it's on YouTube, but it's actually really good. I mean, Dave's like, I feel like he kind of missed his opportunity to being an editor because it turned out so well.
There's still time, Dave.
Right. Hey, Susan.
Oh, hi. My name is Susan Esayian, and I'm a merchandiser. I'm a Taurus. I'm
looking closer to the stars.
a Taurus, a merchandiser of the stars. I first met Michelle, I think we met officially when we were working adjacent with each other in Fine Lines in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Because you were doing Mary Mary and I was working across the thruway. I think that was the first time we actually had met.
I think Ron was also on that job.
Yes, you will.
I think so. Yes, I was.
Yes. And so I originally came out of Seattle, working with Fine Lines in Seattle and working with retailers there. And much like Jess, and I think many of us, we've been in retail. I've been in retail forever. That's all I've really ever done that I enjoy. Let's put it that way. Some facet of it. And merchandising was a natural step of keeping myself busy and occupied and making, wanting to make things look better. And so then I left Seattle a little over a year now, and I'm in Savannah, Georgia now, which has allowed me the opportunity to work in Atlanta, which is great and a new experience for me. And so I've worked 2 seasons with the Symbolist Group in Atlanta, which has been phenomenal. They're a great group there. And then I worked, Michelle and I did the Loyal West Project in Atlanta, which was fantastic. We were laughing because we realized that was actually the first time we've merchandised together on the same side. Yeah, side by side. And we were having this moment of like, oh, wait a minute, you're touching that and I'm going to touch this over here. And we quite figure out, like, took a few minutes and then we got our rhythm down to figure out who was doing what part of that.
Bolting into each other because because I am like, to me, merchandising is like a puzzle. So I'll start something that's like, okay, that doesn't feel right. And I'll switch over to here. We're both doing that at the same time. It was like, oh, you're over there. Okay, I'm going to be over here.
I know, it's like I started at table and then I was like, that isn't, I don't know, I'm not feeling that right now. And then I walk over to the wall and I'm like, nah, and then I go to the bookshelf over here. And
It's like
I know. So then, so this past year, or the past couple of seasons, I've been fortunate enough to be able to work in Atlanta. And then when Atlanta show starts, be able to fly out to Las Vegas and do work in Las Vegas. And I've been, again, with the CMA project, Loyal West, and with Kina, who now is Harper, or Kina/Harper Group. And I started working with Kina when I was back in Seattle prior to the joining of groups. So I've been with them for a little while too, which has been really nice to have. I like this kind of bi-coastal thing.
It's you had a really long like I had a really long season. You had a really long season where the season starts in Atlanta for us and then rolls into Vegas. And you went straight from Atlanta to Vegas, right?
I did. Yeah, I flew out on the 11th after Atlanta experienced their fun snow thing. And then I flew out and got to Vegas and hit the ground. And it was a long season. You're right. And it was good, but it was a long season. Yeah. I mean, I'm so thankful that when I got to Vegas, all you guys were there, because if I had been by myself or if I had been in a hotel for 2 weeks, I think I would have been just mentally drained. So it's so nice to, we had all to have each other to work with day by day. It's so great.
It is hard. I mean, when you're traveling, you're gone because I'm usually the one that I'll be gone for a long time. The dogs aren't on job sites. So it's like, we were lucky this time everybody was together, but you were gone from your husband and your dog for like, how long was it?
Just about a month almost. Yeah.
I don't think like
long.
realize.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. It's like, it's 2 times a year and it's so much work, but I don't think people realize like how long we're away from families and your pets and your normal everyday life, and how draining that gets towards the end.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have been much fun to be around anyways. It's always nicer. I mean, it's always nicer for me anyways. I get in such a zone that it's I feel I was like, you know what, this is good, because then when I come home, I'm just home, know. Yeah.
And then Ron.
Hello, I'm Ron Carter, and as of now, I'm living in Portugal. But my whole career started really back when I was 18 and working at the Gap. Jessica.
Yes.
I know. Yes, sir. But then after university, I studied theater. I was an actor and worked on a couple of jobs, and I didn't have any work, so I needed to do something. And so I went to Eddie Bauer, and I worked there for a while in their home division, and then Anthropologie picked me up, and I was with them for about 7 years, and moved to California, and met my friend Diana, who owns a little boutique shop in Carpinteria / Summerlin now.
The store's name.
And it's Porch, yes. Porch again. And, and she introduced me to, fine lines. And that's how I got started working, setting up wholesale. But the reality for me is retail and design is kind of like my thing. Like you said earlier, how everything's like a puzzle when you're working. And that's what I love about these jobs, because you walk into these rooms and you're like, all this inventory and all this product. I'm like, and I always say to people, my job is to make things pretty. That's what I do. That's why I'm on this planet, to make things pretty. So I love it. It's just a joy to be able to create something out of something. People look at that and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're going to have to do this and make this. I'm like, I got this. Don't you worry about me. I got this. It was just a great experience. And I really, like I said, I love working in, retail and creating beautiful spaces. And also I do some interior design and a little bit of floral events. So I'm kind of all over the board here. In Portugal right now, I've met with a few designers, and we have the Portugal Lisbon art show coming up, and I've been asked to participate in that and help set up one of the booths. So it's kind of introducing me to the community, and
That's amazing.
Yeah.
so I'm excited. So it's I'm a little nervous because I don't speak the language, but we'll figure that all out.
Hey.
Yeah,
That's great.
I think everything that you do really, I think all of us that have had hands in on retail and visual and display, I think, the floral element, I think that also adds to such a strong merchandiser, because you were pulling out flowers out of nowhere. I'm not even going to talk about what you think I'm going to talk about, but you were pulling out flowers and putting together rad displays. And this is before we even had all the flowers delivered yet. And you were just creating these moments. And I was like, damn, but I love that. Makes you such a well-rounded merchandiser and designer. I feel like, is having, your hands in on all of those things.
Well, it's like I said, I love design. I love creating beauty, and I can find beauty in a lot of things. So I don't limit myself. I love the challenge a bit. It's I'm gonna make this happen.
Yeah.
So since you're on the mic right now, tell us which sections, because CMA, I think there was a total of 30 plus vendors, not including Mud Pie. And when we were in the design process, I sat down with all the lines and I really looked at, like, knowing what you guys have worked on in the past and what we've worked on all together, and kind of divided the lines up. And then we had a couple lines where I'd said it already, like, just letting you know, we all have these scary kind of lines that we need to make look good. And I admit, like, some of those lines were some of my favorite lines, because the CMA as a whole hadn't had a professional merchandiser merchandise that showroom. So it was done by Maggie, and it was done by the team there on the floor, as well as when they send their own vendors in and they set up their own. And when CMA did this, the vendors, and I don't know how much you guys knew this, but the vendors were all told, our designers are doing your setup. Yes, please give whatever information or whatever, et cetera, that you need done or you want done. But really, our team is doing your whole display, your fixtures, the design, the sale. Like, it's really, we're doing this to level up the showroom. And some vendors are really open to this. They're like, oh my God, great, I can't wait. And some, it's hard to let go of, and it may have not even been that great of a display, but I think a lot of vendors really, they're used to one way. So they get used to that familiarity. So you start changing things, and change freaks people out. And it was so great to see, as the vendors started coming in, to see the look in their eye, and trying to assess, like, what was different and what was not. But before we get to that part, Ron, tell everyone about what brands you worked on, and what were your favorite moments, and what were a couple of your biggest struggles.
Okay, let me see. So Oars and Alps, Sincere Surrounding, Lauren and Spencer, and Wit Up, which I didn't actually get to do because the project was the pair right and left. What else? And I think I really just, I think I don't think I had many more, but I was helping you a lot. I felt, you and I were kind of just like working on these different rooms. Like we did a little bit in TGB with the floor plan. But I think that's about it. But I'm going to start with the challenging. It was, I think, Sincere Surrounding, only because, they had so many different ideas and the space had changed. And so looking at their floor plan from the previous setup, I said, okay, so I love what they had done, but I said, how can I elevate it even more? And so for me, whenever I get stressed out or I feel like there's a bit of a challenge, I said, let's create a story. How can I create a really strong story? And I think with you, Michelle, you had such a great layout of how the room's going to look. So I walked in with already some great tools, like the fixturing was great, the slatted walls. So it was really easy for me to go in there and just make it something, because I had the tools to start with. For me, it was just there were a lot of receipts in there to work with. And I really wanted to keep the integrity of what the brand was about. So that's kind of that was my really most challenging room. I would say Lauren Spencer, it was very similar, but I just really wanted it to look more high end.
Oh my God.
Because they had some great pieces, and just how can I create a story? For me, it's all about telling a story. And it's also the experience that you want your consumer, your client to see. You want to take them on a journey. And that's how I merchandise, how I style things. I want to take you down a journey, I think with Oars and Alps, I love the color story. The color story was gorgeous. I love the oars that we brought in. And I think that's such a beautiful brand. Granted, we were merchandising toward that.
My God, it was total panic merchandising. Mind you, just so everyone can get a picture of this, is that we had set the floor. We knew what fixtures were there. Dave had cut wood blocks and whatnot to create for risers that I've talked about before on the podcast, that I love using these risers. So Ron had set basically the architecture. Well, the product wasn't stuck in customs. It was
lost in the building.
It was lost in the building. So the first problem was, I think, that because trucks, when they come working in these buildings, there's a lot of specific rules. And when you're dealing with the docks, you have to have dock appointments, and not all vendors know you have to make an appointment. So the Freightliner gets there, pulls up to the back, and they're like, "Do you have an appointment?" And they're like, "No, we don't." And it's not like they let them stay. They're like, "Nope, see you, bye." So they sent it away, and then they finally got it back into the building, and it literally got to the building and got unpacked within 3 hours of you having to go to the airport to go back to
Yeah,
Porch.
we were like running a race, and it was exciting. But I really that was the sad part for me, because I really wanted to stay and finish the whole thing. I wanted the completion, but I knew that working with such strong stylists, merchandisers, you guys were going to come in and just make sure that it was going to be beautiful. I feel like that whole experience of all of us working together, when any of us struggled, we all helped each other out. We were always like, "Hey, what do you think, Jessica? Hey, Susan, what do you think about this?" And that's what made us such a great team. So I walked away from that project not thinking I didn't complete something. I knew that you guys had the reins when I left. So I know it was going to be a beautiful when it was done.
Jess took over for that, thank God.
Thank God.
It was still, you left and there was still we still had the Sunset Vista. Jess and I had to get the tin stuff, which, by the way, we were all supposed to do together, and that did not happen. But Jess, tell everyone what you worked on and Ron, wait, we didn't finish what your favorite.
My
favorite was, my favorite was Oars and Outs, because granted, I didn't get to finish it, but I could see the vision. I could see, how beautiful it was going to be. I love the colors. I love the layout. I love how modern it felt, Like I said, that was probably my favorite, but I also enjoy working over in TGB. We're doing the mannequins. That was fun. That's
Ron gives me the rescue mannequins.
The stories of the mannequin. The TGB, just so everyone understands, TGB, if you don't buy the line, is a massive apparel, accessory, jewelry line. And it's not just merchandising the apparel. It is set by delivery windows. It is set by seasonal, there's delivery windows, and then there's seasonal, the jewelries, fall 1, fall 2. And mind you, this is a brand that was in the showroom already, and somebody dismantled and had to move to storage area, and then we had to move it back. Well, obviously there are some things that are going to get separated and apart from each other. And it is such a big space. It was Ron and I setting the furniture in the beginning. And this is when I started getting sick. And I was wandering around with Susan, you weren't there yet. It was me wandering around trying to get the apparel and try to figure out what I was doing. And I was getting more frustrated and I was getting sicker. Then Susan came in and Susan worked on it, and Susan got it the furthest amount part, because without skipping over your thing, but you spent easily 4 days sorting through earrings on card. Yeah. I couldn't have done that. My ADD and my OCD would have kicked in so hard that, it had already kicked in. It kicked in when trying to go through the apparel, but this is a massive, massive line. And it's probably the biggest line that is within the showroom and one of Jess's sections. I think of the two biggest sections. And I will say this, that Ron, you started Lauren Spencer. I started TGB. Jess started Nature Planet. The first days, which happened to be the biggest lines, which I will say, thank fucking God we did, because I think about if we reversed it and we waited to do those lines to the end, that would have been, oh my God, so catastrophic.
Talk about panic merchandise.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
So Jessica, tell everyone about what brands you worked on. What were some of the challenges, and what was some of the joy?
So like Michelle said, we all had this is also what's great. And I don't mean to keep repeating, but you'll probably hear this from all of us. imperative, but also lucky to work with an incredible team of people that are competent, positive, no drama, and no ego. If any of that had been present, then none of this job would have been successful. I truly believe, I keep telling people that. I'm like, it overall was really like the highlight of my retail career thus far. Thus far. Really quick, spoiler alert, folks, pretty much everyone got sick at some point from our team. We had a lot of people just sick in general in the building. There was fires going on in LA, so that caused people to not be able to come out that were supposed to be able to. There was weather issues on the East Coast there was lots of things. So really from the beginning, there was a lot of moving parts and jumping around. And it's like, hey, I know you were supposed to work on this. Can you look at this? Or somebody saying, hey, can I give you a hand with this? So kudos, I will say to everyone for just all of us jumping in, right? My first line that I did was Nature Planet. I could talk about it forever. I'll try to be really succinct. It was so fun doing this. It's a plush line of stuffed animals, and there's a million stuffed animal companies. And I've worked with several of them on the wholesale and retail level. And to me, the first for all of us, I think, with these big lines is sorting. You can't even do anything until you have it sorted, in my humble opinion. And it's like, let's just see what kind of groups we got here. And then we can start figuring out details, stories, the elements, right? So challenges, like for me, sometimes I'm like, I don't have the rocks. I need the rocks. Like I start freaking out if I don't have the main set pieces. I think Michelle and I are very similar in that way. I got to get big things in, and then everything else we can pepper in as we go. So a lot of times on this project, things weren't there, right? Or the section hadn't been painted yet, or you needed to build out a wall. And there was no time for frustration. You just had to move on to something else. Or again, soft set. Michelle kept telling us soft set, which is great. Okay. And also in that case, if somebody needs to jump in for you, we already kind of have your thing going on there. So there was so many different collections, challenges. A lot of times within, this is with many companies, there's a lot of versions of the same thing. So like this company had 50 different black bears, like the typical Pacific Northwest or what you see at your black bear diner. Like, how do you make that appealing, or how do you make things look different? So, which gets me to, I chose to highlight a line of theirs called Funkyland, which was pets with really oversized eyeballs, and they have like really kind of elongated bodies. But I was like, this is exciting. This is what sets them apart from different plush companies. This is bright. This is happy. This, if I was a buyer, I was walking by, I'd be like, what is that? Mm-hmm. So I started with that. Instead of getting overwhelmed, I was like, what gives me the most joy out of all of this? I'm going to start with this. And it's like that was like what I did the first day, I think, was set up Funkyland. And then I started getting really inspired for the table, the center table and things like that. And I swear I'll wrap this up and go on to the next thing. Another thing that was so incredible, and a challenge that ended up being a dream for me, that section was all windows. It was a pretty prime location, and we had, I consider, everything that has a break with doors or an arch, a new space. So I had 4 separate window areas. Now, nobody asked for windows, but I took it upon myself, maybe because that is really my first love that I miss. I was like, I'm going to make 4 separate windows, 4 stories for this company and for this line. And that, honestly, I think ended up being the thing that I was the most proud of, because it just, I don't know, it made it look more like inviting you into a store instead of just a very sterile showroom where everything is just bop, 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 out like that.
One thing I will say, I'm going to jump in really quick, is that Emily was the person that Emily Hoffman she's the VP of sales for CMA. She and I have known each other for a few years. It's actually where we got Mouse. Emily had saved Mouse from her friend's house that wasn't treating Mouse well. And Mouse was supposed to have been like a foster, and we obviously ended up keeping her. But Emily and I go way back. So Emily had come to me before and asked about redoing the showroom. That was before the expansion, before Mud Pie, before all that. And, it didn't work out. So when this time came back around, and now I totally forgot what the fuck I was saying. Oh my God.
Sorry, it's my.
Oh, that's right. She had said, what I love is that the displays that you guys do, you do it very boutique style. And that's one thing I realized, because all of us are in retail, we all merchandise appealing to the retailer. We stay within the rules of you need to keep the new intros up front. Any bestsellers need to be focal and eye front. But for the most part, we all merchandise very much the same, in the sense of we merchandise to tell stories to the retailer to get them to come in. Mm-hmm. So that's where I wanted to enter. So Jess,
I will move on because I did quite a few and I don't want to take up too much time here. Lang, which is a line of puzzles and calendars. There was so many puzzles and so many calendars. So again, what was a challenge that turned out to me to be a win was always, again, by separating and by grouping. That's how, instead of it just being a boring wall of puzzles, they were all grouped with like items. And sometimes, spoiler alert, it's not how they have it in their catalog. But sometimes it's a great thing to pull. Hey, I know this is in the summer collection, but this would look great with this winter scarf. I know that's not everyone's bag. I'm just telling you. I like sometimes to just pull things that are a little unconventional especially with older product. If you have older product that are still on the line, I learned this from Michelle. How do you make the old new? So I learned that from you. If I have something front and center in one of the stores that I'm merchandising, the next time I go in and redo, that gets moved towards the lower part and away. And I take something that's maybe underperforming and try to put that up and do a great, hello, Ron, floral display with it, or whatever it is, to now highlight that item, right? So Lang source books, amazing.
That turned out amazing.
Loved it. We did these lipped shelves. Michelle had concepted it out like a library, which I loved. I found it far more inviting. And then there was the focal wall was books facing out. So yes, that took time, but I love books. I like anything paper. That was very joyful for me. And I was very conscious when I was like, all right, this row is going to be all books about nature and the environment and eco-friendly. This book is going to be all about kids feeling empowered and strong and things like that. Again, maybe that's not how it was originally shown, but it's like, let's show how you can group this. Let's show how you can buy these 3 books and this works with this other company you already have in your store. It's all to try to help a buyer, because all of us have also worked as buyers and still do. But a lot of people, even if they're a store owner, are not great buyers, or they don't know how to buy, or they don't know how to cross merchandise. So that's part of, again, the fun and joy in what we get to do. Fuse and Sip, an amazing line out of Canada with these kind of sugar cubes, if you will, that are infused with botanicals and whatnot to make pictures of sangria, or the Moira Rose, a nod to Schitt's Creek. That was such a fun, great, happy, very just vibrant, not a lot of product, but they had great colors on their packaging. And so the whole layout, and again, the magic of a giant bowl of fruit can go a long way. Just to show, hey, this can be easy, happy, set up a little bar within your store, perhaps for an event, things like that. Oh my God, Sunset Vista. I never thought that I would make it possible to have a collection of wind chimes look like an actual collection, but I think we did it. I felt very happy about the way
But
that.
explain what Sunset Vista is, so the people that don't know the line.
Yes, it is very large garden decor and like really cool, like metal oversized flowers that are solar powered. One of the challenges, those don't like to stand up on a fixture so well. So there was a lot of maneuvering and pushing faux ivy into the hole to make it stay straight and things like that. And so much to hang. At first, I again was like, how am I going to do that? How am I going to do this? And I was like, stop getting overwhelmed. Let's group it out. Let's group it out. Anything like this is going in Halloween and fall. Anything like that, right? We did a really cute farm section. I found some hay bales and Michelle set them up with the adorable like cow and pig, weird little bobbly things they had. That was really fun. American Source, which is a line of mugs. I give a huge shout out to their designer or whoever engineered their display. One of the coolest things I've ever seen. It was literally slots with discs of wood, and then you just put the handle of the coffee mug in there. Everything was shown beautifully and very straightforward. Maybe the most ingenious display. I hate POP. Michelle knows I don't like most displays that come with product. If I had the kind of store that sold 100 coffee mugs like that, I would buy that display. It was
Their coffee mugs with snouts on them. So the side of the mug just had the snout of the animal or the person. So it was if for those of you who didn't make it to but it's a cute line and super simple.
Totally. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, Nature Pets. Sorry, that's 3D printed animals. Incredible.
Fantasy pets.
Fantasy Pets. Oh my God. See, Nature Planet. Sorry, folks. That was the Stuffies and Fantasy Pets. Really, really cool. And honestly, the wonders of doing something unconventional. Michelle got pink and turquoise AstroTurf. So funky, so perfect. And again, all about grouping, right? And then finally, Widup, which came literally at the 11th hour. Michelle and I split that up, and we were literally panic merchandising at the very last minute.
That one got cut. That brand got, and this is anything that always can happen during a show setup, is that samples don't come in. We didn't get that till the night before the show. Widup got caught in customs, and it's one of those things that there's nothing really you can do, is just keep in contact with the customs agency that is handling it, and they'll let you know when it's been released. And then it's like, hopefully it gets there soon, but it's, talk about flying by the seat of your pants towards the end. The fact that we finished early is mind blowing, but those are some things that happen when you're doing a showroom this size with this many brands.
Yeah.
All right, Dave Bob.
Oh, one last thing. I'm sorry. I don't mean to shriek. Everyone, there was one last company, Queens, which is an accessory company. And I will make this short and sweet. They discontinued half of what they used to show at the last show and whatever. So the magic solution in this case was less is more, taking away fixtures to make it look more full. I was trying to space everything out because that's how it was set, and I got to make it work. And then finally I was like, oh my God, if we lose this massive 3-tier table in the center, everything else will look really full and it will open up this space completely. So that was kind of a happy happenstance. Instead of like me being frustrated, I was like, I got to make this work. Okay, how about if we lose this fixture? And yeah, that was great.
Kick it out. All right, Dave Bob.
So for me, I look at, like Ron had said, everything is a puzzle. You put everything together as a puzzle. For me, and coming from residential construction, I have the gift of seeing the end product and work my way backwards to where to start. So everything to me is a puzzle. You just build one thing on the next puzzle, and you use the term all the time, your foundation or your architecture. You start with one thing and you keep layering on top of that. So luckily for me, the people at CMA, they got me set up with a workspace so I could have a makeshift workshop within the building. It was on, I think, the next floor up. That gave me a lot of space to build these big risers that I believe Jess used in Fantasy Pets. A few other things such as just like these wooden backboards that were archtop for, I don't recall, Ron, when the
Lauren Spencer.
For Lauren Spencer, the brass bookcases, which the bookcases alone are having really nice design. They're very, very organic to them. They're not just squared cut off. They have some curvature to them. So by adding that tongue depressor type thing behind it to give it a whole different aspect, it just makes them pop out a little bit more. So just the little touches like that. And then I believe it was, what was the chocolate company?
Oh, that's my favorite hack. Abdallah chocolates. When I designed it, I wanted it to feel like a chocolate shop. Like buyers, what I think buyers, like all of us, we buy by how things look. And when things are like abundant and full, and I always talk about this in the podcast, like you want your store, it doesn't need to be to the max exploding, but you want it to feel abundant, like you're in business with it. And that's why I love merchandising things in jars, like whether it be carded jewelry or hair ties or, where you have this candy-like feeling and you're like, oh my gosh, it's so yummy. There's so much of it. You're drawn to it. Same thing as the chocolate. Their space before was super small. It was the case that they have their fresh chocolates in, and then it was all their boxes and stuff like that. And I was like, I really want to feel like a chocolate shop. And they actually have their own chocolate shops, but they are it's Midwest and they're very dark. It's all dark brick. It's all dark brown woods. And I wanted it to be a little bit more whimsical. And so I changed the paint colors a bit, made it like a chocolate brown wall and then a pink wall. And then for the fixturing, we did Billy bookcases. And I talked about this in last week's podcast, is that these Billy bookcases, the great thing is, in any bookcase really, or any like inexpensive fixture, you can tweak them so they look very different than the inexpensive IKEA Billy bookcase. And like whether it's wallpapering the back of them, gives them a totally different look. These ones, I wanted scallops. So Dave.
Yeah, basically I wrapped the three sides of the top with scallops that worked all the way around so we could alternate colors to really make it a candy shop. The goal for me with all of that is always to make it look like it's supposed to be there. And it wasn't just, oh, we have this bookcase, let's add this to it. But I wanted it to look like that's how the bookcase was supposed to be. So by adding that and making it so it actually worked, the scallops all the way around, even turning the corners, the scallops were actually a whole scallop that wrapped around the corner. It's something that you might not even notice, but you would notice if it was done wrong. So I take on a lot of that. And then the art form of reworking IKEA stuff has always been a big part of the wholesale showrooms.
Yes.
So that's reworking Billy bookcases, whether it's just the floor level or the full Billy bookcases or multiples and putting them back to back like we did in the source books, adding those and then just adding an end panel so it looks like it's one piece.
But don't forget your sink. You did that sink that was so beautiful.
God,
Greenery.
The shinery sink, the vanity sink that we didn't have any plumbing or drainage or anything in there, but we created a fully stationary, fully enclosed unit that actually functioned. Didn't have hot water, but it did have running water, and it caught all its own wastewater. So that way, at the end of each day, they could take the two tanks, empty the wastewater, refill the fresh water. Everything was just plug and play, and it just created a quick little space.
That it's turned out so beautiful. And I've had so many people on Instagram ask about, like, we're obsessed with the sink, because the Sherrier girls, their product is like a jewelry cleaner, and it also is like a luxury hand wash. So they take you through the whole experience of, come over here and let me wash your hands, and they do your jewelry, and it's a whole interactive thing. And that water is a key element of this. And every single time they turned it on and water came out, and so many stores have reached out and they're like obsessed with that. So I think we're going to do a separate where Dave can talk about how to make that, because so many people have asked about it. But I didn't realize until we went downstairs to walk the dogs that they had a temporary coffee machine. So when you see those temporary coffee carts that aren't parked next to any kind of plumbing, they do the same. It's the same system. It's tanks of water that run on a pump that run the water up and through and back into a waste. And it's like, I had no idea, but that thing got so much attention. It was crazy.
And the biggest challenge with that too is when we got in there, the wall behind it had a big step to it. So it wasn't a straight wall. So we had to reach back out to their construction team, and they came in and rebuilt that whole section of the wall. It did have electrical in it, which was fantastic. We didn't have to try to pull that out from nowhere. And everything made it work. And they had such it was a very small space, but it was such a focal point because it was right backed up to a pillar. So anytime you're walking down the hallway, you see that first off. And
That chandelier, Dave.
oh, then the good fun chandelier. It had like 200 crystals hanging from it. It had to be in a specific order of different lengths and different colors. I think there was like 3 different lengths and 3 different colors, and wrap it all the way around.
Oh my God, Emily's like, you owe him. You owe him. One thing I will say as far as spaces, you touched on it for Sherrier, and same thing for Fuse and Sip, is that these were very, very small spaces. Like Fuse and Sips was basically an electrical closet that had been built out, and the door, they branded the door, and the rest of the wall was painted out. One color there were colors we pulled off the packaging. So, with having the whole closet painted out, and then we did another arch there in a second color from the packaging, and we put the shells on that. And there was a bar floating. That was a super small footprint and was so impactful. Same thing as the Sherrier. It was like super small footprint and so impactful. So you don't need sometimes you don't need massive spaces to create this magical, like these little moments in these weird little spaces in your store. Like, it's something that's very easy to do if you kind of think outside the box.
Well, the other side is knowing that whatever fixtures they have or whatever fixtures are needed, everything's adaptable. We had 2 different tables that we had to raise up by about between 4 and 6 inches. We had other things that had to be cut. We had other things that had to be joined, but everything's adaptable. You're not stuck with just what's given.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, Susan.
Yes. So I worked for 1 week with you guys. Could have been way more, but I was able to. So what I was able to do in the week. So I worked did Natural Inspirations, which is a home personal care product line, lotion, soaps, and a sort, lots of different scents. Really lovely. And then they have the men's line too. So we put that together. That was, I would say, it was a very clean statement in the sense of you had picked a great wall color. We had shelves up. We had a table to do display on. With that, the most challenging thing might have been working in those POPs, the displayers that you buy fully assembled with all the product, and getting them to work in where it looks kind of natural and interesting instead of just shoved on a shelf, And so, I did that. That was really enjoyable. I mean, I think I did that the first day. That was yeah, I don't know. It just came together really pleasantly. I mean, I kept going back to it. And I guess, I think we all do these things. It's like, I kept going back to it all week and tweaking the table because I'd find something else. I was like, you know what? Actually, this needs to be on a tray. Or I'd walk by it. I'm like, oh, I need another palm leaf there or something like that. So, we always kind of go back and tweak things continuously. If we can, then we tweak it. So, but I was happy with how it ended and everything. Worked on Cushy, and that's a brand that I also worked on when I was in Atlanta at Symbolist, and they're a great cosmetic bag line. Again, it was a very simple display because they really, the way they want their product to be shown is all white, and then they have very colorful bags and things of that sort that pop off. You need to be able to show the functionality of the bags because there's a lot of little details within it, like how much they fit. And so they come with a lot of signage that gets worked in. So it's showcasing the bags and really trying to get the signage to work in without it becoming so much signage that no one's reading anything. I think there's something to be said, and I have a hard time with signage personally because I'm not a big fan of it, outside of the vendor name, right? We have the big sign. I don't, and I mean, please, people correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, I don't think a lot of buyers are doing the reading, and they don't have time and they don't have the desire to, a very small amount of people, once they get into it, might pick it up and be like, oh, this has a special feature.
Does this include shelf talkers as well? Because I can't, I sign it. You're right. Signage and the too much verbiage. I think it works if you don't have a salesperson on the floor, if the customer, but for the most part, I feel like it, much like oversized tags on small items, I feel like it takes away from the product.
It does. And I don't, in these show situations, oftentimes you have a representative from the company who's a part of that, who's going to talk people through it. It's not helpful. Like there is one sign that I particularly found helpful, even for me, which was a great one because they have 3 different sizes of bags. And it was very clear. They're like, what size fits what? And you're like, oh, okay, this size fits like these types of items. That to me, just like as a buyer to read that, I feel like, oh, if I was buying, I'd be like, you know what? I only need these 2 sizes, or I'm going to offer all 3. And that visually, I can understand that. It's very clear. But yeah, my own personal opinion on shelf talkers and things, I get really itchy about it because I don't. A lot of times people can spend a lot of time going in and putting into the graphics of the shelf talkers. And I don't find them as effective as being able to just visually show the product as well as we can. You know what I mean? But so we worked on that, a very clean and simple display, no florals there. It was just some risers. We did a pennant over the table. They had a lot of good space, but, like everyone, you're waiting for samples to come in. They come in closer to the end to showcase what really is happening. So, ideally, we added a mirror, little things like they do a jewelry organizer that unfolds and hangs. So we added, a gold hook to make sure they hang and things of that sort. So that's always good. And the biggest thing, my dog is down here. So if you see my arm shaking, it's because she's shaking a toy in my hand. I would say the majority of my week was spent on Coco and Carmen, and that was something that was sort of a. I think you had me on some other projects, and then you were not feeling well, Michelle, and I was like, okay, well, I'll start on this, and you're like, yep, okay, it's yours. Like, that's cool. That's totally cool. Sorry. No, I love it. I think it's so funny. So I was there for it. I was like, but there was a point during the week I was like, oh my God, I'm not making any progress because my head had been so deep into separating and sorting all their, all their inventory, all the samples. But what I love about the space, and I've bought the line before, and a lot of people have bought the line, where oftentimes you go in and you might see like all the bags together and all of this together and all of the jewelry together. And they do have it broken up into buy date, ship dates, right? So you're going to be like, okay, this is shipping April 1st. This is going to ship June 1st. So you have to buy within those categories. But going in and setting it up so you felt like you're actually in like a Coco Carmen boutique, like you had gone into a store, you know what I mean? That was truly such a nice thing. That was fun to do. To play with that, I loved doing the one display. It was sort of the winter accessories display. I love playing with accessories. I think it's great.
Wow, so good.
Yeah, it turned out really well.
The one that we all had our hands in on at one point or another.
Oh yeah, you did the whole wall.
Oh, the wall too. Yeah, the accessory wall. That was super fun. But the thing is, and what I love about the wall that, you guys have put up the peg wall and we're like, okay, this is going to be our winter accessories wall, is great because, again, having bought that line and buying lots of like hats and scarves and mittens and things of that sort, how do you display them? You can't, most of the time you're hanging them if you can. And that is one of the best ways. So they're not all jumbled into a basket. A lot of times a wall is the best way to display winter wear, winter accessories. So doing scarves across on hooks, sorry about the dog, doing, hats, hanging mittens, showcasing sort of different ways to hang items on a wall. And, this translates to, our friend slat wall, but thankfully, this is on peg wall, but you could really do to make it look elevated. You can do a lot to make it look elevated.
Well, that came straight out of Anthropologie. We used to have a winter, what is it? A cold weather shop is what.
Cold weather, yes.
That's totally,
Yes.
yes.
Anthropologie.
No, but I think, take credit though for it, because the thing is that those items, and a lot of times you're buying them, and when you're buying them, particularly with like Coco Carmen, you're also buying an assortment. So you're not just getting one scarf, you're getting 3 to 4 scarves of different colors. You have a lot of inventory. And so how are you going to get that out? And I think being able to show people and showcase that you can use bars, gold bars to hang things, different hooks, stuff like that. That was fun. But yeah, I loved, I love the accessories. I love the jewelry table, doing the round jewelry table, floral in the center with different risers. I love kind of showcasing singular pieces and making them stand out on like little risers, gold trays, cake plates, bringing, it's not just a flat surface.
Yeah, you really, that middle, and like I always call it the focal table.
Mm-hmm.
All of your guys' focal tables, all to watch the line level up to a totally different animal than what it's been shown as before. And then those focal tables are really, to me, when I stepped away and watched everything, I have to stop for a second and touch base on your TGB moment. And this will tie in Ron's. So I talked about it in the podcast last week. Because when we do merchandising, most of the time we're doing brands that already have their own props, their own florals, architecture. And I say architecture, whether it be bookcases or small tables or whatever, to build up your big tables. And CMA really didn't have any. So I was very lucky in the sense of I had access to Napa, to Raz, to a couple of others. And I got to order things that I felt like we all needed for our tables. Mm-hmm. Greens, florals, small tables, binning things like baskets. So it's all stored over into this one area, and I take everybody over like, this is everything you need, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Ron has a penchant for plants because he's a florist. Ron is also squirrels away things. And I get a text from Susan. Oh my God, I have no florals. Ron has taken everything. What am I going to do?
I feel like I told Mom. I was like, I told him, Ron.
Wish I could find the text. I'm sorry, Sally. I'm sort of panicking. I went over there and there's nothing over there anymore.
And again, I felt bad, you guys.
No, but it killed me because you would come around the corner with something and all of us were like, where did you find that? Did you make a plant? And like,
You come out. I honestly, like, I don't even know where you were. Even Jess, like, she come down with this. I had gone through CMA stuff and didn't see that much. And every single time I turn around, Jess is rolling down one of those tiered carts. And I'm like, where did you get this? Oh, up in CMA. I'm all, please tell me you're not taking it out of her stuff. So it's like, no, I'm fine. Where did you find all this shit? I mean, it was like that. It reminded me of the magician where he's pulling scarves out of hat.
yeah.
Like all this stuff kept coming up. Ron was the same thing. You'd be coming out like, where is this coming from?
I was desperate. Go ahead.
Oh, no.
I was going to say that prof room was our Mary Poppins carpet bag.
I'd had this
I just
panic
felt
milk.
myself.
I had panicked because I think I probably spent like 2 days sorting things. So I hadn't built as we talk about, Michelle was like, I hadn't built the architecture at the table yet. I hadn't set up my risers and maybe in Coco and Carmen, you had ordered some larger trees, which really helped because it is a very echoey space and everything. And so then when I finally got to it, I'm like, I'm looking at acrylic risers and I can't do that.
I have to read you the text.
You found it?
I'm having a greenery dilemma. Unless I steal from others, I need assistance in ensuring Coco has enough. I didn't jump on the greens fast enough. And I can tell you now, Ron, since you're here, I did take several plants out of Sincere Surrounding. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Look at Ron. If someone could see Ron's face now.
They were never the front and focal. They were ones that were way up on top.
In the back.
Way up on top. And so I will admit, I mean, we needed some other.
Listen, we needed that picture plant for that Halloween sunset.
Totally understand you guys. But I got really desperate for a while. I actually went to Ivory Stone. I said, you guys, may I just have a couple plants, please? I started begging. And they're like, you can have a few. And then I started scrounging around. I asked someone, are you using this? So I was going in the hall asking, are you going to use this? So I was doing a lot of scrounging, you guys.
You were doing very good. But no, I will say, so, I mean, Coco and Carmen, you're talking about, it was both incredibly rewarding and also frustrating only because you spend a lot of time sorting things and then trying to figure out where it goes, how it's going to go, and then you might feel rushed or something. But there is a lot of, I wanted to present as clean for a situation, particularly when it comes to all the jewelry and everything, certain collections together, but then elevate it but it doesn't feel, you're not overwhelmed by it. You want to come in and just be, as a buyer, I want to walk around going, ooh, I want that one. Wait, no, I want that one now too. And then circle the table and you're like, I want these 4 over here, a different experience than if you're flipping through the catalog and you see everything together, and it goes with the mittens and it goes with the hats. I will say, Ron did wonderful work with the mannequins. I really kind of looked to both you, Michelle, and Ron to help with dressing the mannequins. Michelle, you were ask Ron and you had and we start telling stories about who this lady is and where she's going. And I will say, actually, in general, telling a story is such a lovely thing. Sometimes you got to name your mannequins and where are they headed to? And
Janice, remember? Yeah.
Janice, she was doing some weekend trips in New York. She was Manhattan with the ladies, we had a whole story for her. She's having a good weekend.
But I think that brings a really good point is that I talk a lot about storytelling, and I think that the strongest displays, and this is why anthropology to me is the king of what they do, because their stories go so deep, and Jess and Ron can both to agree to this or to chime in on this, but when we would receive packets for the new rollouts, they would be big, giant packets. And it would be everything from, the one I always refer to as Odile. And it was each area of the store got a spring refresh. So we're talking about the front garden was always, the tabletop outdoor entertaining. And then it went to the hardware section, which is all the knobs, the brackets. Then there's the kitchen section. Then there was, sometimes there was a library.
Bedroom.
So each of these pieces all had X, Y, and Z categories that were within this concept. And they each had a story that was developed by someone at the home office. And Odile they had gone to France. They had sourced found objects as well as like these amazing quilts that this little old lady, Odile, made somewhere in the south of France. And they had gone to her house, and I guess her home was super layered, like everything from the wallpaper peeling off to like the type of plaster that was on the walls and how she had everything layered in her home. That's what became the inspiration for Odile, which I think it was built into the hardware section because it was like a lot of the brackets, her quilts, and some other stuff. And so you get these packs of like, this is Odile's home. These are the SKUs that go in this that continue to tell that story. These are the display elements that are a non-negotiable that again tells that story. And it's one layer on top of another layer on top of another that do the storytelling that we're all talking about. And those are the strongest concepts. If you can even do it with just the tabletop, as Jess did with her stuffed animals, or you could do it with a whole entire section as we've But these storytelling, if you're able to do it and really identify what those items are that live in this section that are only going to strengthen this story, really create strong concepts and add-on sales.
Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. That was, I gotta tell you, Coco Carmen, that was the majority of my week. That was really bad.
Carmen was the challenge and reward.
It was a good reward, it was a reward to finally kind of see it come together to, once, and I do, once the lights got hung, that's always such a good feeling. I wish I could have seen it once the signage got up, on the walls and things of that sort.
Any of the signage go. I saw Abdallah's signage in a picture because they got a story on them, I think, Home and Gift and Deck magazine.
Yeah.
And that was the front cover. And that's the first time I saw any of the signage because that's usually the last thing that's dropped in. But it was this whole entire project, you guys, I have to say, like you touched on it, Ron, and Jess, you did as well. But the ability to work with, because let's face it, what we're dealing with display and merchandising is subjective. We all, I think one thing looks one way, you guys may think. But what was amazing was to be able to lean on each other and say, can you come look at this? And we did this at Fine Lines, Ron, or in Transpac. We all did this together. So,
For sure.
to be able to have somebody that you trust and you admire to say, can you please look at this? And someone will look at it and like, oh, tweak this just because this doesn't make sense, whatever. You don't take it personally. And that's really when you're dealing with something that's subjective that you're so close to, because all of us by this point are so close to these displays because we've been working on them for so long that a lot of times it's very hard not to take things like that ego, like the little bit of like, ouch, that kind of hurt. But never once did I think any of us feel like this. Like
No, not at all.
Respect each other, great. But that is truly like, I walked away from this, granted, so tired and still so sick, but with such I don't know, just this feeling of so like inclusion of just immense joy and like something that we all created together that was truly magical. And it had everything to do with you guys, honestly.
I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, I have so much gratitude being able to have colleagues in work. And it's like, even though we are now like completely located on all these four corners, that we come together and, Ron would be over in the section near me, Jess would be over here, to be able to just call on each other to come take a look at things, help me out with something, and then just have fun and be like each other's cheerleading squad, of like, around the sincere surroundings. Every time we walk by you, you're like, opening another box of beach signage.
Exactly.
You're like, you can do it. You can do it. It was like, you're doing great. And it's
So
just,
for touching on the whole Camp Michelle work site,
Yeah.
it's fun. Yes, Ron wasn't staying along with us, but the rest of us were all in one rental house together. And the unwinding and the after work vent, but also the creative.
yes.
The creative conversation and the going over and asking questions and really seeing, for me on the other side of not being a merchandiser, watching all of you guys work with your creative beings and watching how you would all pull in each other to get a second opinion, get a fresh set of eyes. And everyone was so not just but eager to help. And
Oh, yeah.
the help that was given was welcomed, or it was, yeah, that gives me a new idea to expand on. And
And it was great. Like, I forgot one of the other lines I worked on. I forgot. It was that bag line.
Carol.
Callum. And then, the great thing is then Ron took it over on the last half of it because, we were like, I started it, got it sorted, did tables, but then we were waiting on, some of the hooks and whatnot. And then Ron took it over and just like cranked it up. And it was great to see two merchandisers. Sorry about squeaking. Two merchandisers. Hi there. Thank you very much. I come together and really kind of showcase the same idea. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, he knew exactly the direction I had started in. Like, it's like he could just read it and took it over and then just really finished it out.
Well,
So I felt like you set the foundation for it. And so it was kind of easy to piggyback off of what you wanted and then come in and say, hey, what do you think about this? You're like, that's exactly where I was going. So great. It was fun work.
when I was looking at everybody, one thing that really was really important to me is that all of us have very similar merchandising styles. And why it was important to me when you look at it across the board is that I think some showrooms that have multiple merchandisers, whether they be the vendor coming in and doing their own display or something, is that they often look disconnected, that you don't have that flow from one to another. And that was very important to me. And you can feel the cohesiveness and same thing as when we set the floors, when Ron and I were setting furniture and whatnot, it's like, when we set floors in Anthropologie, you're setting floors as well as what you should be doing as retailers. But when we set floors, we are setting them and we are forcing the traffic where we want it to go. And that was very much the case of how the whole showroom flowed. But then the merchandising flowed like that. Like it wasn't like these weird disconnects. And even with Mud Pie having their own team, which they are amazing, and to be able to watch them do their thing. But even Mud Pie style still worked cohesively with what we were doing. And I think that, when you look at a project as a whole, the cohesiveness is super important. And it worked beautifully because all of us have very similar style merchandising. And so with that, it all really, and I think that's the reason why it was so easy for each of us to step in and go, oh, I would do this, because it's very much all of our style. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. I know we've gone past an hour. Now that, we all were together Jess lived with us for 3 weeks. Susan was with us for 2 weeks. Dave and I were there for a month. Ron was in a separate Airbnb. He was on the ground with us for 3 weeks. So what happens when the show ends? Bye, love you all. We all hug each other. We get on airplanes, cars, and we all drive off. And then we don't see each other. So bring us up to speed with a little bit about what you've been doing. It seems like we've been out of this longer, but I think we've all been home for about a week and a half. Susan, tell us about what you've been doing also explain a little bit what the unwinding process is, because when you are, I think, what a lot of where I kind of touched on how many days we worked together. Like he did not have any days off. Like there was no, I had a day off where I was at home sick in bed with 103 temperature, but that was one day. But we by far and large were there every single day on the job site. And then you come home and it's a weird feeling because you've been going and going and going, and all of a sudden you don't have anything. It's this abrupt stop.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about what it's been like for you and how you unwind.
Yeah, I got home, to my husband and my dog, and I think I slept immediately for probably there's probably 2 days. I just felt the equivalent of feeling, sorry, the dog is pulling on my arm. So if I go out of frame, it's because she's yanking me out of you. I felt, the equivalent of being hungover for 2 days straight. I couldn't barely form full sentences because you're just you're kind of dazed and tired, and I don't want to do this, and don't ask me important questions. I can't make a decision, for don't make me cook food, please don't, and that's kind of what happens to me is I sleep a lot. And then finally you're by day 3, you're okay, that's cleared. This is good. So honestly, I've been working on our house. One of the biggest things for us is because of where we live. We moved into the house we live in finally last September, the end of September. And ever since then, it's been kind of going with, whether I'm working or it's the holidays. And so finally really digging into some projects around the house, which has been great because it keeps me busy and occupied. And I need that, you know what I mean? I really do need that because after a few days, I start getting really, down on myself because I'm not working, or start doubting the work that I did because I have all this time to think about it. And suddenly I'm maybe that wasn't good enough. What's that?
That's so weird. I don't know. It's it's almost like you can't relax and sit back and just look at what you did. And
no, it's very hard. I start looking at photos. I'm oh, wait, do people like that? And it's very, it's me. It's very much, my own, you want to, okay, let's put it this way, especially when you leave before things really begin. So you leave, it's like leaving a piece of artwork that you've put a lot of time on and you never get to see anybody enjoy it. And you're just oh, I really hope people liked it. You know what I mean? Or I hope it answered all the questions that needed answering. I hope it showcased what needed to be showcased. Did people move things? Did it actually work? Did it bring in sales, which is the end goal? You want people to be as pleased as anything. So you can kind of get into your head about that. So it's important for me to try to not feel that way. So then I start doing things listening to books, get back into doing some enjoyable things I like to listen to books on Audible, painting in the house, trying to just do some things around the house. So that's good. And finally, just sort of relaxing a little bit and spending time with my ding dong dog here, my goofy girl, my fantastic husband. There's always the, kind of the re-entry of where you're squabbling because I'm oh, I can't believe he's putting things in the wrong place. Well, he's been here a month without me, of course. Or Ron's husband, who's buying things without him.
Exactly. I was I couldn't talk to this right now.
I just walking around how do you survive if it wasn't for me?
I think we talked about why would you put this here in the refrigerator? This is
oh my God! Just because the shelf is there doesn't mean that's where it goes. I don't know.
It absolutely
so many. But we've had conversations about that. It's just kind of having to let some of that control go. Because you come out of an environment where you really are trying to keep things in control as much as you can. The display, the items, the merchandise, the way things are laid out, are they priced according, all these things. And you come home and then you realize, well, guess what? Your house is not a showroom, but it was.
Well, the other side of that is that vacuum after such a high adrenaline for so long, working on adrenaline and, munchies from the kitchen for so long that you're eating the best or just throwing things in just to keep something going into your system.
It's hard to get into.
You wish and hope that your actual merchandise is showing up. Yeah. And then you get home and you don't have any of that.
No, you don't. So it's sort of like just walking right off a cliff and, you're just on this high and then boom, you're like, oh, okay, well, now what?
I had said, I don't know if I talked to you guys after when I went back and Nancy, who I was working directly for, Emily, and then the rest of the Ivy Stone principals had come in, and Emily was like, would you like to meet them? I'm like, yes, that'd be great. And one of them, I wish I remember her name right now, actually started crying walking through the CMA space. And I didn't have a chance to tell you guys this, but she was like, I was literally crying, which made Emily cry, which made Maggie cry. And, that is the biggest gift. And I said to Nancy is that it's a very, thankless job because we do our thing. We're immersed in it. It's not like we have walkthroughs with the principals. Like, here's this, like when we work for owners, we do like, here's the section we did, we talk about it, but you don't do that because what happens is that you go from, we're the setup team. And then the next people that come in bar tag and tag things. And then the reps come in. And then the customers come in and we're like shuttled out before that. So you don't get to see the customer's reaction. But to have this conversation with them and tell them like how gratifying this was and what a pleasure. And to have them tell us like how incredible it was and how happy they are. And they never thought that CMA would look like this. And that was truly so like, that was the biggest gift. And I had said that to them, like, thank you so much, because this was such a gift. I mean, it really was, but you don't get that ever. So you do go home to this walking off a cliff feeling.
And no one knows what you do for a living. You try to explain to people what you've just done, and why you're not at work because it's the middle of the day. And you're like, well, I was just here for like every day of my life. And, and you try to tell them, they're just like, oh, okay. Unless they really know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bess, what's your last couple of weeks been spent like?
Right immediately into work. No time off for me. I literally came back and went immediately to other jobs. I went to one of the stores that I buy and do all the merchandising for.
Which is that for?
Olive in Time. It's a restaurant and marketplace in Toluca Lake, Burbank in Los Angeles. So I get to do not only the fun part of having non-perishable merchandise, but I also get to do like fun gourmet goodies like little flour caramels and handmade marshmallows from Pasadena and things like that. So I love that. I like to kind of do unconventional stuff for Valentine's Day. So like this year I have a display of this amazing company I'm obsessed with now called Yaya and Friends. It's
I love those
from Greece. It's so good. And
with the little face on it or something, it has the two eyes.
Exactly. So they did like this really amazing special edition pink ceramic bottle of olive oil. So like that was I always pick a product and it's usually based on a color that strikes me. And that's like my focal point. Like I put that on the pastry counter. I'm like, I'm going to build this out around this olive oil bottle because that's what's inspiring me right now. And then I'm an actor, so I went immediately after getting the store in order, after being gone for several weeks, on to San Diego, which I'm grateful I get to go there a lot. Not a bad place after work. And yeah, now I'm just back. And actually, because I didn't get to walk the show, I am now spending a lot of time online on catalogs. It's not my favorite thing. I really wish I had been there in person, but sometimes things are that way. So I've been spending a lot of time on the Fine Lines and Stephen Young websites perusing many a catalog.
So you had any time off at all? Like, have you gotten to like, wow, girl. So you just go straight. That's what, when I lived in California, that's what it would be like. I get home, and now it was like, that was one of the things I'm like, if we're going to take this many jobs and we're going to live away from home, like I want to be home. Like,
No, like literally the day after I got back, I was at work. But I am going away for 2 nights with my husband.
what?
I've been apart from my husband
When does he get back?
tomorrow night. So we're going to the Central Coast wine country, our favorite special getaway. We're going for 2 nights, and I can't wait.
Good.
Yeah.
Dave and I came home to a snowstorm, our first snowstorm in Oregon, which is amazing.
And some of our neighbors have been telling us it's the worst snowstorm in Medford for 10 years.
It's crazy. It's like, it's amazing. I'm not going to lie. We were snowed in, like can't move the cars for a couple of days until we got plowed. But it's, I'm sure ask me in about 3 weeks if this is still around how I feel. But for right now, it's, well, now, Ron.
Well, I came home and I was very jet lagged. It was pretty bad. I was in bed for a couple of days, just resting up. And Oliver and I are working on our apartment. So we were having central heating and air conditioning put in. So I was dealing with contractors. So that was another thing to come home to. But it was really good to see my dog and see my husband. We went out to dinner with some friends. And that's when I had met this woman a while ago. She's actually from Oakland, and she used to own her own store, but now she lives here in Lisbon, and she's a designer. And she's asked me if I would help her with Lisbon Design Week. So that was kind of nice to have that, because I think, like Susan was saying earlier, that you come home and you're not busy anymore. You're just go, and then there's nothing. And that was really hard, to like not have something to do. So I was kind of like, what's the next project? Because as soon as I got caught up in, what we were doing, I was so excited. And I'm like, oh, I can't do anything in my house because there are people working on it. Mm-hmm. So what am I going to do? But it was nice to kind of get back to, just going to the markets here and cooking and kind of getting caught back up in life again. But I did really miss being with you guys, because we worked so well together. Just meeting like the other team as well. But just being back, it's been, like I said, a little bit of a challenge. It took a while to kind of get back in my groove. But now that I know that I had a project coming up,
Yeah.
it's kind of nice having this little break to kind of get me ready for the next project. Because yes, I'm a freelancer. So like I take the jobs when I can, and I still have clients in Los Angeles. So, but with the fires that happened, there's been a bit of a standstill, which I completely understand. So I just hope that, my friends that lost their homes, that I'm kind of hoping that things work out for them. I know they're looking to rebuild, and that's really sad. And I just want to recognize that as well, because it was really kind of hard on all of us, because all of us were impacted by the fires in Los Angeles. But with all that said, it's good to be home, back in Lisbon. And but I do look forward to being with you guys again. And let me tell you, I love our group text.
Yeah, I was going to say, we started texting almost immediately.
I love that. And then the other day you were asking about chairs and things. I'm like,
yes,
I jumped on that so fast.
I'm so excited to get, because I know I sent the photo of we have a new dining table that was here when I got home. I was like, oh my God. And then the famous lamp, which between us, it's this pendant light that somehow made it. I checked the light without a box or anything. It was hysterical. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? But I was like,
You have to explain this. You checked a light without it being in a box.
Yeah. Well, okay. So it's a huge pendant. Let's see. Can I do this? It's a huge pendant light that I'll show.
Like a silk lampshade.
Yeah. And so
If you're watching YouTube, that is no small.
no, that is no small light. So I had brought it to the airport in a box.
Box.
In a huge box. Yeah. I mean, it was not a small box. Let's admit it here. Whoops. Hold on. You still see me? Did I just...
No, but there's Mavis. Hi.
Hi, Mavis. Oh, sorry about that, guys, because I don't have these moments where I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I'm still talking, and let me just go to Zoom. Okay, yes. Oh my gosh, there we go. Hi, guys. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button.
Okay, boomer.
Grandma over here with her phone. I don't know what to do. Anyway, so I had this lamp in this box, and I was like, oh, I can check it, no problem. It fits their, dimensions. And they looked at me and they're like, no, there's no way, because it can't. I was like, can't you pretend this is like a Great Dane crate? And they're like, no, we can't do that. It was too big. And particularly since I was transferring airplanes, so the second flight, it would have been too big for that airplane. I was like, really? So then my old
Box was like 5 feet tall and 3 feet wide. Let it be.
Because it's a great example of why you get to the airport early. Got to the airport. So I then am like shuttled off to the side doing an arts and crafts project. No one has scissors anywhere because no one has scissors. And the only packing tape I had was the packing tape that was on the box. At one point I called Dave. I'm like, Dave, he's like, all right, do they have bags? I'm like, the bags. That's right. So then I got bags. I'm like ripping apart bags, bubble wrapping, and just sort of, it was embarrassing, but it's just sort of like kind of putting tape back on to this lampshade and the large ceiling medallion.
Cannot believe it made it there. All of us were like,
I know.
No way.
There's no way. And then I told the guy, and I was like, I'm just going to leave this up to the lamp gods. And the guy looked at me. He's like, yeah, we're not going to charge you. They didn't even charge me because they didn't think it was going to make it. And so, which was very nice of them. And I was in Savannah and pulled in, and I'm waiting for all the luggage to come down. Got my suitcase, it's almost midnight in Georgia. And then I see this guy come out from the door on the side, and he has this sort of like crazy bubble wrapped lamp and this other thing. And I was like, that's me, that's me, that's me. And I was like, I can't believe it made it. And the flight attendant who was standing there, she's like, that's amazing. I was like, tell me about it. If you only knew.
Was it a little backstory on these lights?
Yeah.
We'll call it a day, but so one of the showrooms in this building is, I think it's Hudson Valley Lights.
Yeah.
Amazing light fixtures. And much like all of these home decor lines, they have discos. So they'll pull the discos. They are not going to ship them back to the manufacturing office because they're too big and they're too short of a timeline to try and sell them. So they just give them away.
And it's only one. So it might be something that you want to pair, but it's one sconce or one.
Yeah. And but they are like, okay, so the lights are anywhere from 200 at wholesale for a sconce to, I think that we got the one hanging up in my office, but I think it was like manufacturer listed as $1,000 something. But they give them away. So it's like, we have figured out, okay, that we go down there. What day are you guys doing the free thing? They used to be a free for all, and they used to put it out in front of the showroom, and it'd be out there, and whoever could just walk by and take it. But I think what happened is that people were taking lights that were actually new inventory. I think that was me. They ended up in your section, Ron and Lauren. But they put them in another room, and it's literally like designers they work with, people in the building, and randoms. And it's literally like, it's like adults, like trick or treating, running to the section, which, and you're tagging them, and you can get a little greedy. And it's Dave had 3 lights. I think I picked up one of my. Okay, this is crazy. We're in a rental. There's only so many, but these lights. It's like we drive home, so we had 3 different lights. One is on living, one is in my dining room, one's above us. But I mean, it's like it is worth it to try and get these things back to your house.
Oh yeah, and at that point, I was was like, I have to try. I'm like, I have the time to make this work. And also I have to try because it's either that or I leave it on the sidewalk in front of the like airport. Like what's going to happen?
And
Be shutting down the airport. Like, what is this? Oh, it's a land. I was like, yeah, this is coming home. And I'm very happy. It looks glorious over my
It's
knee.
beautiful. It looks so good.
Yes, but the text strain is so much fun because like I was showing a photo and I was like, I need help with dining chairs. And these, I mean, you guys, it's like reach out to my best colleagues who can help me. And Ron is like, okay, you need this. And here's an option. And here's an option. I'm like, oh my God, why didn't I even think about that? Like I need other creative minds around me.
And this is why we all work so well together.
Yes, I love it. I know I just need to find less expensive green upholstered dining chairs. It'll be fine. I'll figure it out.
There you go.
Those were damn good, though. I will say
Yeah,
that.
those are good. Yeah.
You guys, thank you so much. I mean, truly from the bottom of my heart. Like I really like, again, this was the most pleasurable experience I've ever had in a show season, with all the ups, with all the downs, getting sick, no days off, like it was so incredible, from dinners together at the house to eating lunch, in the break room, to having the dogs with us and everyone visiting and walking the dogs with I mean, it was just all the way around. It's like, it feels like family. And I can't thank you guys enough for such an incredible, and I hope that when everyone listens to this, you can hear the symbiotic, like whatever we all have together and why it works so well. And for those of you who are at CMA that saw the show set up, please chime in and let us know what you thought, because a lot of love went into that project and there's still a lot of love. And it's like, I cannot wait for the next show season to see what we end up doing next. Cause something tells me this is going to be a long-term relationship for all of us.
It was, I mean, Michelle, thanks for bringing us together because you figured out.
Yes, thank you so much.
Immediately, it was join forces and we're there. We love it.
Amazing.
Love it, love it, love it. And we all wanted a part of Dave. We're like, Dave, over here, I need your help.
Exactly.
Torn in like 3 different places.
Hi. I was running around place to place. What do you need? How can I help?
Yeah. Dave,
It was
hang
amazing.
this up for me now.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so good to see your faces.
I know.